Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. It's a beautiful summer, almost summer day, and I appreciate your time spending with us here at Augsburg. As Adrienne said, I'm the sales director here at the Village at Augsburg, and we are so excited that we have a chance to talk to you today about a really hot topic. Everybody's talking about real estate. And a couple of things before we get started. I do want to remind everybody that this webinar is being recorded, so you will be able to replay it and see it at another time. Adrienne will be sending it via email to everybody who is registered to attend. So you will get that and you can share it with anybody. You can also go to Augsburg's YouTube channel. All of our previously recorded webinars are available there, and there's lots of interesting topics for you to watch there, so please check that out. And we're on Facebook, and we also have a brand new website, and if you haven't visited that website, village@augsburg.org, I would welcome you to do that and get a lot of new and updated information. You can also find floor plans on our website and just a lot of great information about the community in general. So I would like very much now to introduce our presenter today. If any of you have been around Augsburg before in the last couple of years, you may have met Victoria Hathaway, who's come and presented at some of our luncheons many times. But I will give you a little background on Vic. She's got a wonderful resume, and I hope I do justice to it. I want to give her credit where credit's due because she has a lot of wonderful experience. But Victoria is the director of Silver Group with the Bob Lucido team of Keller Williams Integrity. And she is also, I'm reading her little bio here. She is also a realtor, a certified senior advisor, a certified senior housing professional, a seniors real estate specialist, and she holds the certificate on aging from Johns Hopkins University. She's also the immediate past president of the Coalition of Geriatric Services in Howard County. She is also a member of the advisory board for Johns Hopkins University's Aging Studies and the Maryland Gerontological Association and the National Association of Senior Advocates, and she drives for Howard County Senior Rideshare Program Neighbor Ride. Wow. Okay, Victoria, Vic, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. We are going to talk about what everybody's talking about, this fantastic and hot real estate market that I'm not trying to sell my house, but in my neighborhood, homes are selling within days, multiple offers, the whole thing, contracts above asking price. So it's definitely a seller's market. And what we want to do today is really just have a conversation about getting ready to sell your house, what people can expect, and what it means when it's a seller's market. And Adrienne, who is our sales coordinator here, just purchased her home after about 6 months search, and she can chime in a little bit about that from the buyer's side. But welcome and thank you for joining us, and let's get talking about real estate.
Hey, thank you so much for the introduction and for the invitation to be here. And thank you to everyone who's attending. I absolutely love what I do. And, the goal is to just be open book and to get you sort of bomb-proof and educated for this whole process. And I feel like there's a lot of things that people don't even know that they don't know. And so the joy in having these times together where we can just kind of, share information, ask questions, and then get you facing outward where you know all the things. And I feel like education leads to empowerment, and an educated consumer is always the best consumer. So that's the goal. And, for Suzanne and Adrienne to put me in front of you today, I know that we all share that same goal. So I appreciate that very much.
So let's talk a little bit about what you're seeing currently. You know, the last year has really been momentous in so many ways. And I think a lot of people didn't, obviously weren't thinking about last year moving. They didn't want the whole, you know, people coming in and out of their house. But we started to see this happen last year during the pandemic. We started to see this. So what's going on, and how do you see the next year?
Yeah, thanks for that. The look back is pretty incredible in that, you know, going into this, none of us knew what to expect, and we all just sort of assumed it was going to grind to a halt. Because I direct this program, excuse me, nationally and also into Canada, it's been very interesting for me to see what the agents in different states are experiencing, because it has not been a blanket approach. Our governor, you may know, is also a realtor, and he enabled us as licensees to continue work throughout the entire process. So, you know, what we saw was, you know, kind of a pause. And then we saw all the impact of the technology and the work from home. And it was an amazing pivot in terms of what was popular in terms of real estate. So specifically, we went away from the obsession of the millennials for the walkability and, you know, those kind of cool kid hangout places, quasi-urban places, back to the kind of house I grew up in, which is, you know, there was ground around it, a more suburban feel, or even you know, in the country. And pools are back in fashion. Everybody wants a pool. It used to be that people were filling their pools in because buyers did not want them. That's a pretty, I mean, there's some pretty extreme changes. A focus on, you know, everybody loved a finished basement, but now they love a finished basement even more. So in terms of the power position of you as the seller, you know, for you to understand what's in demand and how that puts you, you know, in an opportunity to leverage what you've got that has gone from being unpopular back to being very popular. So, you know, that extra bedroom, you know, people would say, well, I don't need so much square footage. Maybe I'll look at a smaller house. So it's all been very interesting. It's been a huge change. There was a focus on safety and gatekeeping. So the agents would have only 3 people in the house at a time during showings. So on open house Sundays, you would see lines out the driveway and people coming in, you know, taking a spin tour and going back outside, children not being allowed in. And, you know, we're coming back away from all of that now, thanks to the vaccines. So it's just been an amazing year. I'm a bit of a history nerd, so living through it has been amazing. To bring you right up to the minute with a snapshot of right now, you know, people who certainly have memories of 2008 and what was going on in the housing market. There's been a lot of anxiety around what we're seeing now. And the question, is it a bubble? So all the heavy heads, all the housing experts, all the economists, all the top real estate people are saying it in fact is not a bubble. What we're experiencing is classic supply and demand. Too many buyers, not enough houses. I used to go to birthday parties and we played musical chairs. It was too many kids and not enough chairs. So the power right now of being a seller is extraordinary. I've never seen anything like it. And I'm working closely with people who've been doing this for 30, 40 years, and they're saying the same thing. So it's that is the supply and demand, not a bubble. I would say that, you know, to make it real and give you some numbers, state of Maryland just came out this morning with the May data. So we get that mid-month in June. So I can share with you that the average sale price has gone from $366 to $435.5. And in percentage points, that is a 19% increase from this time last year to right now. So, you know, when that translates into your sale price and translates into what you're walking away with for your profit, it's extraordinary. Baltimore County, you know, I tried to really tailor it for Augsburg's location. Baltimore County average single family home is $371,000 right now for the sale price. And the median is gone from $322 this time last year. The median is now $370, which is a 15% increase. So all of that translates to your profit when you're selling and walking away with the money in your hot little hand. Other things that realtors obsess on and that really make a difference to you as the consumer and the seller is days on market. That's something we watch very closely. Days on market this time last year was 13 days, which is pretty good. You know, that's not a month.
Right, that's a very
6 months.
reasonable, yeah.
Right now, it's 6 days on market. So,
And you know what, Victoria, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it
Yeah.
seems like from a buyer's point of view that it was even less than less than that. I was constantly looking at my phone because as soon as a house popped up, I had to immediately call my agent. I think I called her before she called me, so we can get out there the same day, because 2 days later, you know, that they were accepting offers.
right, right. I feel like there's sort of the gold standard in my opinion. There are things that I think are kind of, really clear cut, and I always come down on that side versus other ways to do things. And I like to kind of muddy the water and come to clarity with a lot of different options and really no cookie cutter. The one thing that I saw happening was, if we put it on the market on a Thursday, which is our process, and then the appointments start, and then there's a whole flurry of activity, and then Sunday is that open house. And then we are saying by Sunday night, to all the interested parties, give us your best and final.
Yes.
And that's when you see the sausage being made behind the scenes, where it's a bidding war. And if the savvy buyer agent put an escalation clause to say, okay, we're going to go up in $1,000 increments until we finally hit our level and we can no longer compete, or we prevail and we get the property, that the buyer agents have figured that out, and they're kind of pushing back and saying, no, we're going to give you our offer on Saturday afternoon. It's a very high, good, robust offer. Take it or leave it, because we're not going to wait and be part of that competition through Sunday night. So then, it makes me go back to my childhood watching like the Let's Make a Deal show, and it's door number 1, door number 2, door number 3. And we're sitting there thinking, this is a great price and it's a bird in the hand. Should we forge ahead and do the open house and see what comes, or should we take this? So that's been a nuance that has been interesting. And I, we didn't see that type of thing before. But
do you think this is going to continue for at least the remainder of this year and maybe into next spring?
All the heavy heads at the national level are saying yes. There's talk about watching inflation. There's talk about that, the Fed's going to keep the rates low. I talk a lot to the mortgage lenders, and they're watching that like it's, that's what they're watching every day. But everybody's saying no change for the foreseeable future. And by that, they mean through the end of this year.
Okay.
Normal real estate is that you see things slow down a bit when we hit kids getting out of school, because people are taking vacations and they're kind of taking their eye off that ball a little bit. It used to always be, and it looks like we'll be back in that situation again this year, where you could count on the fact that the urgency returns, where people need to be under contract and time it so that they're going to physically be in that house in time for their children to start school in September. So, we didn't have that last year. We will probably have it, we're having it this year, so we can count on that. And then for people whose timing is such that they are going to be looking at putting their home on the market in the fall or up through the holidays, what I always say, and is very sincere, has not changed, which is take heart, because the less competition you have, the more your house shines and the more buyers are there for it. And people who are shopping at that time of year are serious shoppers. People are not shopping at that time of year because they want to. They're shopping because they have to. There's been a change in status. They've, moved their job. Whatever the scenario is, people are buying houses every day of the year. And so, I was always told, you've missed the mark if you haven't hit the spring market or the fall market.
Yeah, I don't see that at all. I live in a very suburban neighborhood, and we had more houses sell in my neighborhood between Thanksgiving and February 1st than we have all spring. And I think I don't know if people wanted to sell. It was coming up on the end of the year and they were trying to wrap things up. But it was unbelievable that you would never have seen, years ago, people selling their houses basically year round now. And, especially here at Augsburg, we're dealing with people that have lived in homes for 30, 40, 50 years. Their mindset is, I can only sell my house in the spring. And even now we're in June and they're still thinking, I'm not, my house isn't ready to sell yet. And all the market dynamics are saying you don't need to do that anymore.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about the readiness of the home now in terms of what people should be investing in doing or not, what's not necessary anymore because of the way the market is, and how, that HGTV influences things.
Yes, thank you for your personal observations on that to both of you, because it kind of keeps us real. And just as I flip my my talking points here, just to make it real and leave the conversation about pricing and percentage points. These are my own personal stories from very recent sales. 375 going for 4.25, 700 going for 765, 825 going for 960. So when you're saying, tell me some real stories about the market and how it's behaving and how do these percentage points translate? It's been amazing. What I would say is, I'm gonna kind of get to Suzanne's cue about HGTV and setting the expectations. I'm gonna take you through the route of talking about 5 paths to selling. And so, it's gonna give you an overview of the fact that there's more than one way. And our goal ultimately is to figure out the right way for you. It's cookie cutter to a point, but let's pick a track and then go down that road and then tweak it accordingly. So FSBO is FSBO, stands for sale by owner. And that is an individual who's selling their home without the representation by a licensed real estate agent. It's fun to talk about. I am passionate about it in that, if you can do it and if you have some skills and you can save some money and you're prepared for the journey, great, good on you. We've sort of built a reputation as being takeover artists because people realize that it's not fun to have to keep the appointments and they're sitting in their house and the person doesn't show up. And then maybe they're sketchy, or maybe it's somebody who's trying to run a scam on them. And it kind of opens up that whole can of worms. My passion, I guess, on point for not going FSBO and having a dog in the hunt because I'm working in real estate is that people who do it that way, they go like a lamb to the slaughter where they're not represented. And so, I think good journalism kind of gives you the overview and then tells you a specific story. My most recent one from a month or two ago is the people were represented. We were their agents. But here's an example of what can happen when you're selling, right? The buyers were from overseas. So everything was offset in terms of the path of the closing by about 13 hours. Our sellers had a flood 2 nights before closing, and we were able to just jump in and make it all good. We got the guys to come in and take care of the water. We got the waterproofing done. The agent put money in escrow. They did an addendum. The buyers were happy. The sellers were happy. We got it done. We got it done on time. They made $65,000 more than they were asking on their house.
Wow.
And they saw the value of the fact that we were in there as their expert and their advocate, and we had all the resources and all the tools, and we made it almost like it didn't happen. And so their stress level was down here because we were very genuine, saying, we've got this, we've got this. I cannot imagine going through that as a person who was not being represented and the house is under contract. You got to make good and come through with all that. So that's just sort of my hopefully balanced talk about going for sale by owner. Investor sale is the second path. I care about people's bottom lines. I was raised to appreciate every dime, every dollar. And so when people say, oh, the cash for houses guys, let's talk about that. The first thing we say is that 100% of the time, it's always going to be your lowest return. It's going to be your lowest profit. The people that do it, they like it because they are cash rich. They can leave the money on the table. They just want that guillotine to come down and they want to, hand over the keys and, 2 days later, get their cash, get their money and run. What I like to do is not only give you the pearls of wisdom, but I also like to kind of turn it over and show you where are the warts, right? So the way that this one, where's the getcha? Where's the catch? When those guys come, they customarily will have you sign that you're selling to them and you are leaving it open to having their engineer come through. And then that price might change. That's the fine print. So they're going to give you 300,000 and you let their engineer come through, who really is a home inspector is what he is. And then he says, oh, well, that joist is bad. And I found a termite and I found this and that. Your 300 is now 195 because we're going to have to do all this work. But you signed the contract and that was in the fine print. So it's great to do this advocacy piece of saying, you know, people do that all day long. But your takeaway should be that the money they told you you're going to get might not be what you actually end up with in your hand, and that it's always going to be your lowest amount of return. Interestingly, my last three that did it this way were each retiring physicians. And I figured, you know, making assumptions, they probably had plenty of money. They could afford to do it this way. They wanted to just walk away. So, you know, respect for everybody's process. It's a very private way to do it, certainly. And then just to, you know, flesh that out, what that buyer then, that investor buyer is going to do is he's going to come in and fix it up and do all the things to it and put it back out on the market. And he's going to make the profit that the seller woulda, coulda, shoulda made. Third path we would call as is. And as is interesting to talk about right now as we come out of this, you know, pandemic and with this roaring seller's market, because as is used to be red flag words when people came as buyers. Oh my goodness, they're selling it as is. They didn't want to do anything to it. There must be wrong things. Oh, but here we go. And they would come and then they would say, yes, we agree. We're shopping for an as is property. But at the end of the day, they're still in that negotiation process at the end of it when it's going under contract saying, well, yeah, I know you said as is, but will they do this? Will they fix that? Will they fix that? And there's a whole stance of lowballing you as the seller, saying, well, you know, this is wrong, that's wrong, you know, you're selling as is, what's going on here? And they're, you know, they're looking for that other side of the coin to lowball you. So it's not my favorite, but right now, even an as is house is selling and selling quickly and selling for top dollar. Yeah. Yeah, no way around it. You know, I mean, that's what's happening right now. It's great to stay on point with the focus on the profit, because I'm going to draw kind of parallel lines going up the X and Y axis. People will say, well, I don't want to put any money in. I want to sell it as is. I'm still going to make a ton of money. Yes, you will make more money right now with an as is, but not as much as if you had refreshed it or done some of the updates. So it's all good. It's just, you know, making sure that people really understand that picture. It's two parallel lines going up the axis, and you're always going to make less with an as is. Okay. The fourth path is some renovations, refreshed, not the full, you know, the whole enchilada. So, you know, an easy way to talk about that would be to say, you know, probably a coat of paint and maybe addressing the flooring. If it's carpet, you know, a fresh carpeting. A lot of people the house I grew up in was built in the early 60s, and it's got hardwoods all the way through it. And my parents' era was they loved the wall-to-wall carpeting and the softness and the coziness. So, you know, what we're doing is we're going in as real estate and helping people prepare. And we're saying, you know, rip that carpeting out and expose those hardwood floors. And the buyers go nuts for the hardwood floors. So if you've got them, you know, use that to your advantage. And it's simple, and it's a great way to improve your cost and your sale price and your selling experience and keep your costs down. The fifth path would be doing, you know, a full renovation. So that should be experienced as only the things that you're going to get a return on. You should not be feathering anybody's pockets as far as they're going to sell you this and sell you that, and you're not going to see the money come back out of it. Our goal would be, you know, put in $1, but get back $2. Yeah. And my most recent story on that is a house where the seller was adamant that they did not want to put a dime into it. They just wanted to sell it. It was, you know, had no changes, no updates to it ever. And she would have sold $245 as is. She saw the numbers. She saw what we were trying to explain. She let us get our words out, because we're caring about her maxing out on her one-time sale to get as much juice out of that as she could. So stay with me. $245 as is would have been her sale price. She put $60 in to renovate. We put it up for market at $435, and we sold it for $470.
So twice as much.
Yeah. So she put in $60. She got $165,000 more out after it than had she sold at 245. So, there are some incredible Cinderella stories, and I've got more of those, but that's sort of a really outstanding one that I'm not a math person, but I appreciate the numbers and how it turns into people walking away with that much more money in their bank accounts when
So
they're done.
how do you encourage sellers to do that, to take that as their option, to take that $50,000 or $60,000 and look at it as an investment into getting, a larger return?
What you just said is the key word. It is an investment. Nobody wants to spend money, but if you spend a little to make a lot, that's investing. And that house that has all your emotions and all the things, in it emotionally and mentally, we want people to take the emotion out of it, step back and look at it and exhale and say, this is an investment, or this is a commodity. This is something that I'm going to be selling. It's a property. Disengage and start to really think about the numbers. I always come from education as opposed to selling. Suzanne, I don't know if you want me to tell about the fact that we have a specific program that lets,
Yes. Yeah.
It's kind of it's like having a box full of crayons, and I've got these magic crayons because I direct this program and we have these resources, and it was all purpose built. To net that out, what it means is you have a free consult with the stager, the agent, and the contractor, and you. And we welcome kids, concerned persons. You've got somebody, sometimes families have a lawyer or an accountant or a builder in the family. Bring it. And we all sit down and collaborate. Takes about an hour, hour and a half, walk the house, crunch the numbers. You watch the contractor and the agent in front of you in real time, figuring it out based on the market and the houses nearby. And what they come up with pretty much right in front of you is, if you did X, Y, and Z, it's going to cost this amount. And this is what is going to package your house for sale. And they call it value engineering. So it's nothing fluffy that's not going to bring you a return. And they can literally sit there as that story that I just told and say, as is, you're going for 245. If you do this amount of work for this amount of price, we think we're going to be able to get you at least 435. And then we got you 470. The magic is you don't have to pick the vendors or the contractors or the paint choices or do any of the management, vetting people, order of work, who comes first, who comes second. We do it all. And after that lockbox goes on, all the work is done. There was no cash flow on your part. We have enough of a resourceful program that we're able to pay it all up front. And then you pay the cost for that seller with the $60,000. That 60 of hers came out at closing.
Right.
So, I don't care if people have millions, cash flow creates anxiety, and to just solve that. And, nothing gets done without everybody in agreement. And for the rubber stamp, I'm kind of like, are you a rubber stamp? Or are you just going to tell me, yes, this is the thing to do? A good example is we did a condo recently, and the stager wanted to do this beautiful fancy range hood. And the agent and the contractor came and pushed back and said, for the extra cost of that versus putting a microwave with a vent over it, which is what everybody ends up needing anyway, let's go away from the glamour and let's go to something that's going to cost less and get more money back. And everybody said, yep, you're right. Let's do it that way. So just a concrete example of we care, and we're really in there into the weeds, making sure that it makes sense, and to make you happy, to make Augsburg happy, and to be able to sit here and have real stories to tell that are true. It's amazing. It's amazing.
And that's a great service. It's a great option for people, who are thinking, I don't want to put money into this, but when they realize, what you just described in that one setting, that woman netted enough to more than cover an entrance fee at Augsburg. That $160,000 extra that she got from renovating would more than pay for an entrance fee. And then that still leaves her the other money that she got from selling the house that she has now to live on. And so I don't think people realize, the benefit in doing something like that.
I thank you. And, for those of you who haven't met me, don't know me, I am what's known as a true believer in, Augsburg, CCRC, what that is. And working in real estate, kind of the Venn diagram of those two worlds means that the agents like to sell it for more because they're going to get a bit more of commission. The contractors like to do the work and they bring their, chutzpah to it, and they get you something that's ready and people are fighting to buy and it's exciting. My thing is I'm sitting back taking the big picture and I'm thinking, this is a game changer because this is creating people who are able to qualify to move to CCRC, to Augsburg, who might not otherwise have. I lose the contractors and the real estate agents in that sauce, but I get it. And Suzanne gets it. Adrienne gets it. It's amazing. It's life-changing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will hear people say all the time, well, how will I pay that entrance fee? And there's one solution right there. And that is you're making money doing that. You're making money and you're securing your own future, here. So it's absolutely, a great option for people. So 5 paths. Now let's talk what comes next after 5 paths of selling.
So I have this as my bullet saying what to expect when the agent visits. So it's not a white glove expectation. I have talked to the majority of people say, I'm so stressed out. I'm going to invite you to come. You told me that you should come sooner rather than later. The sooner I let you come, the better the outcome. All of that is true. Now I'm, freaking out that I've got to do my house cleaning and get it ready for you. And I certainly grew up in an era where we did, brutal spring and fall house cleaning. I mean, nobody cleans like that anymore. So what we say as realtors is, don't worry about it. We're not there to look for that. We're there coming in to see the actual bones of the house and the condition of the house. So when we say bones of the house, what we mean is we literally walk in with nothing but, we've seen the outside and we've collected the tax record data. Tax record data is wrong a stunning amount of the time. And so specifically, maybe somebody finished their basement or turned a half garage bay into a, country kitchen. That might not show up on the tax record. So in terms of pricing the right price for you to sell and the square footage, there's things that are hidden until we get there and actually walk the house. In terms of condition, we are running a scenario in our head where we're comparing the condition of your house to everything around you that's selling. And the respect is there just to say we need to set the apple to the apple. And to be very, to take you to heart, and our advocacy to you is that behind the scenes, we're going to sit down and we're going to have that conversation about your house's condition versus what's up for sale and how that translates into your sale price or our guidance, our consult on what you may or may not want to do. We don't want you to go with the wool pulled over your eyes. Whatever you decide to do, we want to make sure that you have all of our input and all the detail and you're kind of getting the scenarios ahead of time. I'm going to do it as is, or I'm going to bring your contractor in and maybe I will get, a windfall amount of cash going that direction. Ultimately, no matter whom you work with, you should always know that you should have the reins and the decisions are yours. And as professionals, we're going to be there as licensees, giving you all the benefit of what we see and making predictions about what the outcome is going to be. A good agent will tell you, we're sitting here at the kitchen table, we're in the safe place. Your buyers are going to love this. Your buyers are not going to like that. Give it to you straight. What I don't like at all in this industry is kind of the smoke and mirrors agent. They will come and they will walk the house and they will say, oh, I can sell this for, maybe $50,000 more than your wildest dream and don't do a thing. Well, in this market, that could very much be true. But to have an agent come in and to bring data, and I'm talking like printed out papers where you sit and paw through it together, and kind of the gold standard for the experience you should have is not the smoke and mirrors, with all due respect to a master agent who knows exactly what it's going to sell for and exactly what the response is going to be. It's art meets science. But I'm a little more data driven. I need a little bit more respect. I need you to let me into your space as the agent, tell me what you're seeing. So to have the study done where it's done like an appraiser does it. We go a mile out in distance from your property, and then we go 3 months back and we capture everything that's been sold, that's currently on the market, and we sit there and we look through that. Then we cone it down further and we say, now of that sample, then we're going to say, you've got a 4-bedroom rancher with a 2-car garage and a swimming pool. and a fireplace. So then we say, let's look at all the ranchers that are in that catchment and put rancher to rancher to rancher. And so we're looking at square footage, we're looking at amenities, we're looking at condition. Has it been updated? Has it never been updated? And really holding accountable to, the reality there. And then out of that, looking at all those sale prices and saying, where are we going to put you? So that's how a good market analysis should be done. That's what should be being presented to you. That's what you should demand. That's the data. And then there's two schools of thought on coming to your sale price. If I had to really, broad brush it, some agents will say we recommend that you price it based on that market analysis. Here are all these numbers. Here's actual properties just like yours that have been sold. Let's go here. And other agents will say, let's use that data, but instead of pricing it to the actual market, let's price it to sell. So an example would be, maybe you could start it at 425 because that's what all the data is showing. But if you started at 400, there's a psychology to that. Maybe because everybody's shopping and they all want the best, most, biggest, nicest place they can get, and they see yours listed at 400 as the start price, they will come in droves. And then they will engage, fall in love, and then they will submit their best in finals, and then they will start a bidding war because they realize, and they end up paying 450 for a house that was 400. But if you listed at 425, maybe 30% of those people never even came to that house because they already
the way that you described the getting to the sale price or the
yes
listed for is that still relevant today with the way the craziness is of the market? Meaning, I know I'm going to speak for my neighborhood. Every house in my neighborhood has sold for more than $25,000 over asking price. Some is 60,000 more than asking price. So I, as the neighbor, am sitting there saying, well, the house was priced right when it went on the market. At least it's, but they're going, beyond that. And so then the next person's like, well, I'm going to go beyond that. So where does this, do you price for what you can really sell it for, or do you price for what you think is going to happen because of what your neighbor just sold their house for? Am I?
Yeah. Yeah. It's great observation, great insight, and great question. As these houses sell for these record high amounts, that information gets recorded and they become part of the comps that the agent then digs up and brings to the next person who's ready to sell. So instead of pie in the sky, those numbers become real.
Okay.
So, it's sort of a moving target, it's like a conveyor belt, and you're going and going and going, and it becomes real and it's driving up. I think I would go back to that psychology of, if I price it in such a way that more people think I can afford a 400, I don't think I should start at 425, because 425 is probably going to end up dumping me out at 475. So it's ironic that, you price it to sell, price it a little bit lower, and you get more people, and then they all turn their pockets inside out, and their mom and dad come and say, well, we'll give you the gift loan and, we'll figure it out. It also, Suzanne, to your point, there is some number crunching that goes on there with appraisal.
Correct.
I can sell the 375 for 425, and everybody's happy that that's a $50,000 over asking price windfall. Is it going to appraise? So the banks are coming along behind, and they're, doing their computations, and they're saying yes or no. And so what's happening behind the scenes with that is that people are coming and they are waiving the home inspections. They are waiving the appraisals. They are paying the seller's costs to close, and they are giving rent backs or free rent backs in order to be the winning bid. They're desperate to get that house.
I gotta sell my house. Dang.
I can attest to that. I can attest to that.
No, I can't afford to buy somewhere else.
Yeah, that's absolutely happening.
So if you have a rookie agent who's helping you buy, they're learning their job, and they don't know, they might not know about the escalation clause. They're on a learning curve. The expert master seller agents helping the seller, what they're doing is they say, okay, you're sending me a contract that you're going to waive the appraisal. Show me your money. and they are having bank statements shown to them so that this is not a smoke and mirrors contract that's coming in. Our agents are making the buyers show them their banking. And if they've got the money, then they get the contract. And people are coming with cash and settling in 2 weeks. You know, certainly that makes an appraisal moot because they're coming with cash. They don't need the financing. And a nuance here that, you know, you might want to tuck away when you get into the nitty gritty is, you know, I had a house that it was up for sale for 700. The best two contracts were 765 and 790. Well, you know, the first thought is 790, right? Obvious. Not so obvious. A skilled agent guides the seller and says 765 with cash, waiving the home inspection, no appraisal because cash. And the 790 was conventional and they wanted the inspection and everything. A home inspection can be costly because people are negotiating. We always tell people get the home warranty. It's $500. It's going to save you $20,000 in the home inspection costs that the buyer's trying to make you do. So there's a lot, you know, there's a lot to teach. There's a lot to know. It's just to be in that power position right now as a seller. It's extraordinary. I've got more stories than.
So let's just for a second here. Are there any questions from anybody in the audience so far before we move forward with staging and things like that?
Not yet.
No. Okay.
But please feel free to send in your questions at the Q&A tab.
Okay, good.
Good. Okay, good to put a pin in it. Before I go away from my what to expect when the agent visits, I just want to say that you know, some agents are a hard sell and some agents are a soft sell. A good agent will come prepared with all the pre-filled listing paperwork in their briefcase. So don't be put off by that or feel that that's pushy. I mean, that's professional, and that is an example of when we walk in the door. Maybe, you know, Susie is up from Texas and Tom's coming from Tennessee to be there with their parents to help be supported. And they're looking to get it done that day. I would say, you know, in balance, it'll be leave the listing paperwork with us. We need to digest it. It's been lovely meeting you. We're going to interview one or two more. And then for that, you know, just make sure that you know that in theory, everything is negotiable. So you do not need to be led and told what it is. You know, you can ask questions. You should be empowered. You should kind of hold the agent's feet to the fire as you interview them. That's a whole nother presentation that I do, helping people understand, you know, it's like that 1980s book, Don't Go to the Cosmetics Counter Without Me. That woman was an insider expert, and she would tell you that the $40 designer mascara was not as good as the $5 tube of Maybelline. And so I like to take that approach, and the agents hate me for it, but I like to bring all of that knowledge to you as the consumer. So, you know, always up for that conversation. And I call this kind of back to school night where we're all together and we're talking sort of generally. But if people want a parent teacher conference and want to go one-on-one, you know, that's what good realtors do. That's what I do. And we're there to help, and it's not an obligation. So you want to talk about how the home value is determined? That's my next bullet.
Yeah.
So we talked about the smoke and mirrors as far as buying the listing. We talked about the data and the 3 months back and the 1 mile out. What is happening with that arithmetic when, you know, you've got a better house than your neighbor because you've got a 2-bay garage and they have a 1, and you've got a pool and you've got a fireplace. The agent should be also sitting there and doing that arithmetic and giving you pluses or giving them minuses to actually end up with that sale price. I would say that all of that being said, the most important number, and make the agent do the arithmetic while they're sitting there with you, less about the sale price of the house, as important as that is, more important is the seller net. Do the deduction, subtract the cost of a new thing of paint or carpet, subtract the cost of the agent's commission, subtract the cost of the closing costs, and the governor gets his piece, and all those subtractions. And now show me, you know, do I have a mortgage still on it? Do I have a home equity credit line? Show me all of that, and then show me the number. And that's the number. You know, to go back to Augsburg and say, this is what's in my hot little hand. That is so much more important than the sale price of the house, because it gets rid of all those unknowns. And so that's really important. And the agents should be able to sit there and churn that out for you. That's your most important number to ask for. let's see, what is staging, right? What is staging and why do it? So we're going to get around to Suzanne's opener about HGTV and how expectations are different. What's going on with all of that? So staging is not making your house beautiful. I'm sure you already have house beautiful. Staging is about making your house look like a builder model. You know, when we go out and we look at model homes, that's the goal of staging, is to have it look like that, because all that psychology of the builder model that somebody walks in and says, I got to have it. That's what we're doing, kind of reverse engineering that to somebody that's living in a house, living in a property, and how do we do it? So, you know, what actually happens is the stager comes and has her own time with you. She takes measurements and takes pictures, and she's back out the door within an hour. She goes away and creates a very detailed report that comes back to you. Then you can digest the report and you can say, I'm going to do all of this. I'm going to do some of this. I'm going to do none of this. It's entirely up to you. But what we've essentially done is put an expert in there to give you a prescription for how to really actually make it look that way. And so, you know, an example would be if you've got my mom, she had the most gorgeous gallery of all the family photos, all like lined up the staircase.
Yeah.
Down, take it out. Why? It's beautiful. It's beautifully done. It's my family. That represents all the joy in this house, because that is a big turnoff to a buyer coming in. They want to see the space as theirs. They don't want your imprint on it. It's kind of psychological. It's emotional. So when people do get ruffled and say, well, but this is me, you know, or this is my collection, or this is my amazing artwork, or these are my, you know, diplomas. It's an asset that we're packaging, and it's not to hurt your feelings or take anything away from that. It's very, very sincere and very much, you know, it's by design. So
it distracts the buyer from really looking at the house and you, like you said, making it their own.
Yes.
They're so busy looking at the stuff.
Yes. And I love the people part of this is my joy. So when I do go in and we visit, that's what I get lost in. And, you know, when you're a buyer and you're out seeing 10 houses in a day, you come away and you think, oh man, that guy was on the deck of the aircraft carrier and she was a school teacher, and that was really neat. They had a beautiful family of 8 kids. You don't remember the house. Yeah. So you cut your nose off to spite your own face if you stay with that and don't take that direction. It would be a nice segue into the presentation that Augsburg's offering next week, because all of this gets into how what we do fits together with what Move Management and Senior Transitions does, and you'll get all of that next week, which will be great. Yes. But to go back to the historical perspective, you know, staging came out of the bad market time where we had to put the lipstick on the pig, we had to turn every, you know, sow's ear into a silk purse just to try to get it sold. So it's the complete antithesis of what's happening now with this market. But this is the origin story of staging. What is it? And why is it? And so, you know, then you throw in technology and HGTV, and you've got a perfect storm as far as how selling a house has changed. Mm-hmm. Go back in time before the staging and the HGTV and the internet. And the way that people went out and bought houses was they had a realtor, they all jumped in the car and they went from house to house to house. And they could go in and fall in love. So maybe it needs paint, or maybe the landscaping needs to be tweaked or whatever. But they were physically in the space. They could see it. They could feel the neighborhood. They could fall in love. Now it's all about taking the pictures of the house, putting those pictures not just in the brochure where the person has their hands on it, but on the internet. And so, you know, the millennials are sitting on their sofa on Friday night, scrolling through all the houses that are coming fresh on the market that weekend. They're picking the ones that are in the area, have the best price, but look like the most that they see on HGTV, the least amount of work for the best price. So when your house suffers for how the pictures look, because either you didn't paint or you didn't stage or you didn't clean or you didn't do all these things, that's a conversation. And it's going to be okay. And we're going to sell your house. But we are respectful of having that conversation behind the scenes to prepare you for how the buyers are going to respond. So when you get to go away and kind of think, if I do this, that, and the other, I might get like a wave of buyers coming that weekend, or it's not going to be that response. That's where the ball goes back into your court. We can do all the things to help, and get you that best outcome. But this is kind of the schooling, the education about this and how it works. Most people, growing up against cultural sea change, you would see that property, you would fall in love with it, and you would get excited because you got to pick your colors and you got to do your thing and your trims and your finishes. What's different now is everybody's working, everybody's busy, everybody's leveraged, and they want to buy it ready to move in and have a barbecue the next day and be proud. Nobody wants to buy work. Nobody wants to buy a project. And they're trying to intentionally mortgage themselves to the hilt for the best house that they can afford. So they don't have $15,000 sitting in the kitty to go spend, months at Home Depot trying to figure it out and get it done. And, it's really, I'm 56, that's how it used to be. And it's not like that anymore.
No, and it's very much, what I see, I call my husband and we call ourselves the OGs of our neighborhood. Our neighborhood was built in 1989. We moved in 92. So we've been there, there's been a lot of turnover the last few years. We're still original owners. And every single family that moves in, it has to be a move-in ready, like pristine house. Nobody wants to paint it. Nobody wants to put in new flooring. They don't want to do, they want everything, like you said, very just comfortable and for 2020, 21, not 1989, not 1974, even though, there's a few people out there that's like that mid-century look. So it can be overwhelming to people, I'm sure, that have lived in a house for 40 years and they've been completely comfortable. I have this little story that I'll share. 2 years ago, I live in an area that's very growing, and a lot of new houses are being built. So my husband is one of those, we've been in this house, it's great, it's comfortable. What do we need to do? It works for me. So one Sunday I said, you know what, Bob, let's go take a drive. Let's go look at some of these new model homes that are right around us, just to see what are the kids buying today? We walked in and my husband was like, oh my God, this is beautiful. I would love this. And we went into the next house and he's like, I can't believe this. This is gorgeous. Guess what we did last year during COVID? Got a new kitchen, got a new bathroom, got all new floor throughout the house. We planned it to happen before COVID started. So we were already committed to doing the project, but we did it knowing that, when the time comes and we do want to sell, we have what somebody wants and we're not going to have to do it at the last minute. And it will have been, paid for, and it's all part of profit. So that's just my little story. And my husband now goes around and he's inviting in all the neighbors. Come on in, come see what we did. You got to do your kitchen. You got to look at this bathroom. So it is worth it. Hopefully in the end, whenever we're ready to move, it will pay off for us. So that's just my little story of how I convinced my husband to fix up the house.
And you're ahead of the game. Yeah, now you're ahead and you can enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I do have a question. I'm sorry, that just came through. Yeah. It says, do you need upfront money to fix up major or minor repairs to the property to meet requirements? It says, or in an event that you want to sell as is.
That's one of the amazing sort of the charms of the program that we offer. It's very different in that we are able to get it all done and there is no money up front. No money is changing hands at all, not a penny, for all the things, the realtor part and the staging part and the photography and the brochures and the marketing and any work that gets done. All of that is only experienced when you get to the end, and that's when your commission is due and then your money to the contractor is due. So it's just, I went through this with each of my parents' homes, and this job didn't exist and this program didn't exist. And it's hurtful almost to look back and think what I went through and what I could have had. So there's a lot of joy in talking about it. And, the biggest problem that we come up against is people say, tell me again, it sounds too good to be true. So I'm glad that you asked. It's one more chance for us to say this is real. And, we've been doing it now for coming on a decade. And the contractor that we work with is doing 25 to 30 of these for us at a time. So, for me, when I hear older adult selling, moving to community contractor, I feel chills down my spine. I almost feel like nails on the chalkboard, because what we'll walk into is somebody that called a contractor, they destroyed the bathroom, and then they never showed up again. So we're not even fixing from baseline. We're fixing things that have already been messed up. And to go in on our white horse and handle all of that for people, I wake up every day and I can't wait to go to work, because
I do love that the seller is not out money up front, and that is a big concern that I see with a lot of people who are looking at moving to Augsburg. We are traditionally a more modest community in terms of the fees that we charge and the entrance fee that we require, but it's still a significant amount of money. And if someone is thinking, gosh, I've got to pay this much to get this work done, and I've got to pay an entrance fee, and then, what am I going to be left with? And I love the fact that this program is designed to benefit them all the way around, and not until, they absolutely are finished with the whole process do the fees exchange.
Yes, and that's, when you're interviewing, a big piece of that, when you come to the end and say, now here's my ticket, ask the agents what their commissions are, because they're not all the same. Not everything is always included. You can put the apple to the apple and say, this is a real estate brokerage and it's an agent, but it is shocking what is different from one to the other, and what you get and what you're charged for it. So, ask those questions.
Great stuff. All right. Do we have any more tips, any more pointers before we wrap up?
Do you want to hear my passion around move and sell, or sell and move?
Well, that's always a question at Augsburg. This year we thankfully are seeing activity again. Last year people weren't comfortable moving, and traditionally most people are, when they come to Augsburg, they sell their house and then they move. But what I'm seeing more now is the houses are selling so fast that if they haven't already selected an apartment here, they may sell their house and not have a place to come to. So if people are able to move to Augsburg first and then sell their house, no matter what happens with that, how quick that house sells, they're secure here. But if they need the assets from the sale of the house in order to come to Augsburg, how can that work for them so that they can get here?
So 100% of the time, if people can do it, my preference is always to move first. And so, it comes from the care and concern for the person and the process, as opposed to just the hardcore real estate. It's kinder and gentler to the person. And we're not trained to think about it. We're brought up to think, okay, you sell and then you move. So sometimes this can feel like an out of the box, like what, move and then sell? So it's a fun thing to talk about. It gets the wheels turning. The respect for the financial, the bottom line, I'm not out there in la la land, I get it. The idea that you're going to take occupancy here, but you maybe got about a month that you're still going to carry the other place. So I'm aware. The creativity around it, there are oftentimes bridge loans. People will go back to their bank, their lender, their credit union. They've got the relationship there already. And they will say, I'm interested in having a home equity line of credit. And I get a little sassy about this, because in my mind, your home equity is yours. You've lived there, you've paid the interest, you've done all the things. And so where I get upset is, if I'm going into the bank and I'm saying, I would like a home equity line of credit, chatty Kathy at the bank, oh, well, why? And what are you going to do? It's none of their business. it's just none of their business. And, you know, what I don't want is for somebody to say, I'm moving to Augsburg and I'm going to be selling my house and this is going to be used as a bridge loan, because then the bank will suddenly, you know, freeze up and say, well, you know, what they're seeing is they're not going to make the amount of profit, the pound of flesh off of you that they were hoping to make, that you took that line of credit out and you used it for 10 or 15 or 20 years. It makes me so mad.
Yeah.
And, you know, people kind of look sideways at me when I say, keep your cards close if you go to the bank and have that conversation, because they feel, you know, am I being disingenuous? Am I doing something wrong? No, it's just that it's banking and money and lending is a whole world and they're not necessarily person-centered. So I say, you know, you need to get in there and make it count for all the years that you paid and the relationship you have, and use that.
Yeah.
So
I've also had some folks who have put their deposit down here at Augsburg and their house is on the market. And we've timed it so that they are closing on their house, and then a few days later, they're paying their entrance fee for Augsburg. So it's a quick turnaround, but it can be managed very easily.
Absolutely.
And that is really the easiest way to do it.
Absolutely.
And you know you've got a place secured here, and you're just waiting for those funds from the sale of your home to deposit into your bank so that you can then write a check for your entrance fee. And that has worked for, you know, the last few people that have moved in. That's been the easiest way to do it.
It's a fantastic way to do it, and to really, you know, get into the nitty gritty and talk about making it happen. How do we do it? Because to Suzanne's point, we do it all day long. And it just gives such a great outcome. And then I would say, you know, if you say throw that conversation into staging, I love a vacant, empty house that's up for sale. So I never want to oversell the staging part of it. If you're going to move out and vacate and move into Augsburg and then sell, do the vacant and empty thing, you know, all day long. Buyers come and they see a house that's ready to move right into, and that's its own great psychology. And we get great outcomes with that. So give yourself the freedom of choice with that, because I love to do all the things and try to get all the juice. I'm a fan of the hybrid. Okay. So hybrid is you stage it, you photograph it, the stage pictures go in the brochure and onto the internet. And the minute the photographer walks out the door, you're putting things in boxes and you're dismantling and you're moving to Augsburg.
Yep.
So that way you've got your cake and eat it too. The shoppers are seeing the pictures and they get it. And when they come there, they're not stupid. They realize people are packing and they're on the move. But you got the most bang for your buck doing it that way. So that's kind of a fun thing to talk about as well.
I think we have another question.
Yeah, yes, we do. So the question is, what if you still have a mortgage? Are you eligible for this service?
Yes, it just becomes part of that arithmetic. You know, we sit there and we say, okay, here's what we believe the house will sell for. Here's what the cost of selling is going to be, commissions and closing fees and that type of thing. Here's what it would cost to do anything that you do think makes sense to get the biggest profit out. And then also do a deduction of that number of whatever's still being owed on it. And, you know, it's just arithmetic. And then that lets you see, you know, once again, what am I left with after all that's taken off the table? Yeah. There is a fee that state of Maryland charges to close out a mortgage. So there is a smallish extra cost for that we always put into that arithmetic. If you do have a current mortgage, that somebody who doesn't have a mortgage, they're not going to experience that fee. I think I don't know, it's hundreds, like it's hundreds of dollars. It's not thousands. But that's part of the again, that nitty gritty. But yeah, no, good question.
Good. Wow. Well, I love all this. I could talk about this forever, but we definitely covered a lot of information, and I'm sure that folks are going to probably watch this again when we send them the recording. Vic is very generously brought a door prize today for our audience. So before we wrap up with the presentation, I just want to remind everybody that next Wednesday we have kind of part 2 of this series, and Charna Kinneberg, who is the owner and founder of Senior Transitions, is going to talk about downsizing. You know, I sold my house, now what do I do? And Charna and Vic work with us at Augsburg very closely. Charna is another one who's been here for different presentations in the past, but between Vic and Charna, there is your package for selling your home and making it possible for you to move to Augsburg. So I hope that you'll come back next week at 1 o'clock on Wednesday. If you haven't already registered, you can still register for that. And Adrian will be sending all of you a link to today's webinar. You'll probably get that tomorrow. And big thank you to Vic for spending an hour plus with us today. And Adrian is going to pull our door prize winner now. It's very legitimate. So she's got a.
Let's see. We have Kathy Betta.
Okay,
Betta.
Kathy.
So if I pronounce it incorrectly.
Coming to Augsburg on Monday for.
Oh.
Well, that was great timing. So, Kathy, I'm going to hold the prize for you on Monday. You can pick it up when you come for your tour. And Vic, you want to share what the prize is?
There are two prizes, and I guess we'll give Kathy first dibs. There's a $50 Visa cash card, so a little bit of mad money.
Okay.
And then there's a autograph signed Brooks Robinson Orioles baseball, most famous third baseman of all time, Hall of Fame. So
Great. Okay, so Kathy, I will reach out to you, and then Adrian, so you want to draw a second name so we know what the second. So let's do this. Let's say we'll get in touch with Kathy. We'll find out what her choice is, and then we'll get in touch with the second prize winner and let them know what their prize is.
perfect.
And the second prize winner is Betty Gunther.
Great job. Okay, great. Well, thank you. Good job, Betty. So we've got two ladies winning today. And thank you very much for that, Vic. We appreciate that. It's always fun to have door prizes.
Yes.
So
Fun.
we'll reach out and to both winners and let them know how to get their prize, or we'll bring it to you if we need to. And again, thanks, Vic, for spending this time with us. It's always great to see you. Hopefully we'll see you in person soon. Things are opening back up, so it's nice to get to see everybody in person again. And thanks to everybody for spending the afternoon with us. I look forward to seeing you next week when Charna's here. And thank you for being a great supporter of Augsburg and all that we do. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Vic.
Bye. Thank you.